And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners this March 10th business meeting. Mr. Krupp, our county administrator, will take our roll.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. We are joined this morning with Mr. Stephen Madcore, County Counsel, and then also Mary Rathke, our Clerk of the Board, as always. So, Commissioner Bernard.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Chair Ludlow.
Here. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, so often we try, Mary Rathke and I are in cahoots on this, we try to play a little video every chance we get, especially during our supposedly short meetings, which this may be. And so it's time to share another one of those produced by our multi-award-winning cable division. The Made in Clackamas County video series showcases local businesses and industries that help our economy. And as you'll see, spotlighted businesses often detail how the county assists them with their operations. This brief video shows how local treasure Fat Cupcake, right here in Oregon City, goes about producing us delicious treats for all to enjoy. Notice we don't have any samples, I'm sorry. The video series is just one of the many ways the county helps promote and assist local businesses, and our Business and Economic Development Program coordinates several projects that assist our business community and improve the local economy. Check them out today at www.clackamas.us/business. You can also see all of the cable's produced videos and our business, BCC business meetings by going to YouTube channel. Simply search for Clackamas County in YouTube and our channels at the top. Also, this video was previously shared via the county's monthly news e-letter, and you can sign up to receive that, or you can sign up for our weekly email notifications about this board's upcoming actions by clicking on Get Email Updates in the footer of any page at our website. Mary?
Angelica Hayes. I opened up Fat Cupcake in Oregon City. We have some sweet dessert cupcakes. We try to throw in some twists. So some of our cupcakes have cookies on them or have candies in them. We have 11 different flavors that we make every single day. And then we always have 2 or 3 additional seasonal flavors. And then we also offer some gluten-free options as well, and those change every day. I've never done anything like this, and so I wasn't sure where to start. And the county was extraordinarily helpful in telling me what I needed and what regulations there were and how to go about things. And then they also gave me different options so that I could choose and really make the best decision for my business. The Charlie Brown Cupcake is our most popular cupcake. It has a Reese's peanut butter cup baked in the middle, and after it's cooled, we make some buttercream. Of course, we have to add peanut butter to that. When we're frosting the Charlie Brown Cupcake, we do our trademark frosting style, which is just a ribbon frosting. The Mr. President Cupcake is also a very popular cupcake, and it's a Oreo cupcake. It has an Oreo baked in the middle. And then we make a cookies and cream buttercream. So we put some like heavy whipping cream inside the buttercream and some crushed Oreos, and voila, there you go. One of my favorite parts about being in Clackamas County, and is a reason why I chose to be here, really was due to the community that I've seen. So many customers come in and want to know how we're doing and want to make sure that we're going to be here in a year and in 5 years, and the support has been absolutely overwhelming. And I feel like everyone is truly invested in your success. I'm Angelica Hayes with Fat Cupcake, and we're made in Clackamas County.
I'm just happy, happy, happy.
Well, I had announced before that many of us are on an austerity diet caused by Mary Rathke, who decided that she'd start a contest. So we are slimming down slowly, and for a 3-month period of time. I think it was 3 months. It feels like 3 months. So anyway, we have, Mr. Krupp, oh wait, I have a citizens communication card, a single one that's fine. Oh wait, I have two. I have Mr. Les Poole and Mr. Steve Shop.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like 4 minutes and 2 minutes for Mr. Shop. He seems to agree. I'm here about the road fee situation and the process. I, as you know, am someone that kept bringing the issue to the table, and there's so many things going on that I was pleased that it didn't get put on hold any longer. The roads are bad. My biggest goal, and I think the message from the community, is we need to do something. In spite of all the other crazy tax increases, our roads are an emergency, and we got to do something. And last year, some of the commissioners, some of the people on the budget committee voted in favor of devoting more money to the road condition, the road fund. I was pleased to see that. That money wasn't taken from anywhere. The county had millions more in the hopper in the last budget. That money didn't come from social services. That money was applied to a critical need we have. And as time has gone along, we've got to a point where, as recently as the evening meeting on the 18th, followed by the Tuesday business meeting on the 23rd, it was decided there'd be an advisory vote, and regardless of anyone's opinion on that, we were seeing some action. How is it then that on Thursday morning, the 25th, the language has changed? You know, it's not what we really were talking about a few days earlier. And thanks to Mr. Shop and Commissioner Savas, that was reinserted, or that became part of what we're doing. I'm not sure who comes up with the idea of last-minute changes, but you can't imagine how that went over, because we can't be vague. We cannot be vague anymore. People are not willing to accept theory or maybe or kind of sorta. It doesn't work anymore. We need to be very direct about what we're doing, and we need to work on our outreach. And I'm here to help you. Over the last couple of years, I would have been happy to help, do more than I did. People like him and the folks here and those on TV, they're the ones that, if you got the right message and you're doing the right thing, are going to support you. Just as when they were doing the wrong thing, opposing the vote on light rail and other issues, the folks responded. And I don't come from a place where I'm speaking on behalf of a political party. I'm not speaking on behalf of some candidate. I'm not paid to be down here. I'm here because I really care about Clackamas County, and there are issues of trust that linger. I think trust has improved since the board changed, but there's a ways to go. Thank you for your time.
Commissioner Bernard.
I just wanted to mention that last night we went to the CIA meeting in Oak Grove and did a straw poll, and everyone supported putting something on the ballot in November to fund roads. And the issue was which form is best. You know, people have 5 cars, probably shouldn't have 5 cars because they're going to have to pay vehicle registration on all 5 cars, and then people who would prefer gas tax. As you saw in Bend, gas increase failed miserably. I think we might have got an email from you on that. And also a vehicle registration fee has been very challenging. But, you know, the thing we've been talking about all along is you got to have a list, and you have to promise that you will do that list, and then we come back a few years later and say, we did good, will you trust us again? And I think that's where we need to go, and that's what we're planning on doing.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you. Well, geez, Les, we care too a lot. You know, this is a 5-member board, and we each had a different idea what should be done with this. And whereas no single person's idea floated to the top, we were able to come to a consensus. And from maybe your point of view, it's very easy for you to come here and say, you guys did it wrong. But
Excuse the interruption. It's difficult, not easy.
Okay.
okay, it's not easy, but we were able to come to a consensus and move forward on this. And my thing, as I've always said since the day I was elected and I campaigned before, is any major funding measures will go to the voters and they can decide. And the only thing that we can do is lead. We can lead and tell the public, you know, our roads are bad, they need to be fixed, they're going to cost 10 times more if we wait. There's no better compelling economic argument than that than we can make. And if people don't listen to that, I can't help it. Gas tax is a non-starter, especially since the federal government's considering it, because it's the only thing the feds can do. We were at a meeting, most of us, I think all of us, with Congressman Schrader, and he says, you know, in Congress, they're getting some traction on the gas tax now. Well, because they're out of money, and any more transportation money coming to us has to be borrowed to add to the already increasing federal deficit, which none of us like. So what is our answer to that? You say trust lingers. Since this board has been in leadership in this county, we have reached out. We have tried to establish trust more than anybody. And for a single person to come and say that this is still an issue, which I get, I totally get, because everybody hates government right now. If you look at the federal level, everybody's fighting and arguing, and somehow it trickles down to the local level, and we get that too. But at this level, we are doing the very best that we can to make sure that we don't violate the trust, that we listen to the people, and that we present the problems that we're dealing with to the people so that they're not surprised. And that's the only thing that we can do. And thank you for coming. Thank you coming for today talking.
Les, I believe you thanked Commissioner Savas, probably because of the words voter approved that are back in the question. Now, I want you to know that day when we came into that meeting, I had voter approved in my notes, and Commissioner Smith said later she did too. So I appreciate heaping the praise upon a single individual. Remember, it takes always 3 votes to move this commission. And when you say that that money did not come from anywhere, that's a little hard to swallow. You see, it does come from somewhere. It's property taxes. Now, every year, Mr. Krupp has his famous DOT method, where we put on the wall all of the policy level asks. That meaning that different departments, if they want something extraordinary outside of their budget, they can ask for that, and they'll explain it, and they put it on the wall, and we get a series of dots and save them up for our special pet ones or not. But there is 4 times the amount that we eventually decided on. 4 times that amount was contained on that wall. So when you say that money doesn't come from anywhere, yeah, that money that went into roads instead could be used for public safety, juvenile, mental health, disability services. So there was all those things on that wall. So it won out this last time. I continue to say that you cannot, by law, use ad valorem taxes for roadway purposes, and a road is defined as the right-of-way. So I'm concerned about the continuing leaking of that money into our roads when really it should be a user pays situation. So money does come from somewhere. Commissioner Savas.
Well, I'm going to save most of my comments on this as far as that trust issue again on roads, but I just want to just briefly speak to last night, like Commissioner Bernard mentioned, and we were both there, and it was a good group, folks, small but good. And I think it's probably my takeaway from last evening was probably a good idea that we stick together on what we all agree on and work as a team going forward. The question cropped up from the audience last evening about why don't you just do it? Just do it versus putting it to a vote. And I had to bring to light, really, that this is only a fraction. This is less than 1/3 of the money we need to meet our road maintenance funding requirement. And granted, we can spend or get part of that from VRF, which does not have to go to the voters. We realize that. But to get to the finish line, we have to rely on the voters. So do we work to garner the trust of the citizens now? Or do we actually put that in jeopardy by just doing it, lose that trust, and never get to the finish line? So I think really, I see it as a 3-step process. I walked away last night thinking, really, it is a 3-step process. Number one, we want to get enough maintenance, so we're going to do this first. We're going to follow that up with perhaps some funding to meet that rest of the funding gap, and then also the capital part, so we can solve some of our match issues with some of the highways like I-205 and Sunrise and all those other issues where we need to invest money. And in order to apply for those grants, you need a 10% match, which 10% on $100 million, that's $10 million. 10% on $300 million, which is what 205 is estimated, that's $30 million. Where do we have $30 million? So we have a long ways to go, and we have to work, and it takes time. You don't win the trust back overnight, and that's going to take a lot of commitment, but I don't want to do anything to undermine that. I think it's important to realize that when that question crops up as we do our outreach in the future, I'm hoping that we all stick together on that and recognize that just doing it would undermine that trust. And I'll speak to that in greater detail later.
Commissioner Schrader.
I just wanted to state that this is the 3rd time in my history as a Clackamas County Commissioner that we have done an iteration of ways to try and find road funding, whether it be at least our focus now being on maintenance as well as capital construction with the Sunrise and I-205. I don't think we can do much unless it gets sent to the voters. And I think that from my past history with this, I'm hopeful that the education piece, for example, in the back of the room today, you can see the longer we ignore this problem, the bigger it will get, from 40 million to 523 million. I think that it has been at least one of the best education programs I've seen that our public and government relations staff has pulled together, and it's all factually based. This is very straightforward numbers. It's a very straightforward way of describing what the problem is. And I think we are finally getting to crisis mode. As I said, we've been working on this since 2003. And I don't know how else we can fix this other than to continue to try and educate people and hope that the third or fourth time is the charm, where our constituency will understand that this is a problem that isn't going to get any better. It's just going to get worse. So I'm hopeful that we can actually move something forward with this time. I'm glad we came to consensus. I think that's a good sign with how we work with one another. And I think the citizens expect that to happen, and I also think that that builds trust.
Mr. Shop.
I'm Steve Schaub. I live in Tualatin. Land use and transportation are mighty important. So is money. So I gave you some things. I gave you one of these. So let's start with this right here. It's a support letter for the failed Senate Bill 1510, which there seems to be some dispute as to whether or not the county commission's position opposing that a week or two ago was legitimate or would have been supported by the rest of the commissioners. I'm glad the commission did ultimately oppose that bill. But to clarify the bill, because there's been some misinterpretation about what the bill does. The reason that Clackamas County is not on this, the logo on this right here, is because TriMet never told you about the bill. They also didn't send you this, the original explanation of what the bill did. And if you actually read the bill and their explanation, you would find that 1510 would have given TriMet some ODOT authority to use gas taxes and vehicle registration fees, as well as a other host of other ways to fund what? To fund their projects. This is what their lobbyist, Bertie Bottomley, provided Clackamas County in a listening session they had with the chair back in December. And it points out the need for finding funding to clear some debt service for the Southwest Corridor, which is going to be light rail. They keep postponing the preferred alternative. They bumped it half a dozen times. Now it's going to be May. They're looking for funding. And the Southeast Bus Rapid Transit. So how is that relevant now? It's because this will come up over and over again. And Clackamas County needs to decide whether or not another light rail expansion, whether it's Southwest Corridor or CRC, or a bus rapid transit and regional funds and state funds and federal match is more important than I-205 or the Sunrise Corridor. And there's no reason to be foggy about this. What happened here is when TriMet, the bill, when it became public, they changed their story completely and started telling everybody that this bill, 1510, would provide funding for I-205 and Abernathy Bridge. I mean, the deceit involved in the pursuit of money by our local regional agencies is stunning. And the reason that there's not more interest being advanced in Clackamas County is because you're weak. If you simply had 3 votes to apply some aggression, you would find a better path toward land use and transportation. So just looking at the bill here and what they tried with the income tax for TriMet, it's unbelievable. Thank God both those bills failed, but they'll come back next session. So who would imagine that the problem developing in Damascus that's getting so choked up, just like the Dundee where they're building a bypass now. If you sit by and do nothing and don't get aggressive on that, it's going to be a horrible problem. And the last thing I want to address is this. This is a lovely picture of an area in Washington County. It shows a freeway, an airport, and 1,100 acres of farmland. Does that sound familiar? They're going to turn this into industrial land. Washington County, 1,100 acres, next to a freeway, next to an airport. That sounds a lot like south of the river in Clackamas County, does it not? And yet you can't even get a 50-year hold removed off of that. It's beyond the pale. Can you imagine Washington County accepting a 10,000-acre fake urban growth boundary expansion that happened 14 years ago? Can you imagine them putting up with that? If you had 3 votes in a strong county commission, you would be pursuing that for some remedy with Metro and ALCDC and say, hey, you expanded the UGB in Damascus by 10,000 acres and you knew at the time it was fake. Not one thing has been done in those 10,000 acres, and you can't even apply for development because Metro prohibits it. So the county is getting the short end of the stick on land use and transportation. because the county commission is not strong enough. And yet, there's a whole bunch of people that want to weaken it further and take it backwards into the previous makeup.
You, like the previous speaker, got my console to light up. Congratulations. Commissioner Smith.
Looks like a Christmas tree.
Does, I'm telling you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Schott. One of the interesting things, and I'm going to talk about this again, that Congressman Schrader said at the CCBA breakfast was, you know, do it like Clackamas County did. You know, do your things incrementally. You're not going to get a huge wad of money to do everything you want to. And he was referring to the Sunrise Corridor. And we do need phase 2 of that to service that area, because a lot of growth is going to happen out there, whether Damascus incorporates or not. People are still going to move there. They're still going to demand services. I would agree with you that we are stronger and more vital together than we are apart, and we worked on that, and we did that with the road fee. There's enough out there for everybody to hate, and there's enough out there for everybody to like. But you know, where I think we're a true representation of the county as a whole, there's a lot of split views out there in every little segment. Everybody is split. So the best thing that we can do is try to stick together, do what's right. And regarding 1510 is, there was a promise made from our state leadership that no transportation packages were going to be put up in this legislature. And then out of the blue, the state's largest transit agency comes with a transportation package, and they have no business doing roads or freeways. And that was my big objection. And where was ODOT during all of this? This is ODOT's responsibility to go after federal funds for I-205, and what business does TriMet think they have paving I-205? They have none. They have $1 billion of liabilities in their pension systems that they can't even begin to pay if their people retire. And they think they're going to come and pave I-205. Well, you know, I've been around long enough to recognize a red herring when I see it. So that's why this board opposed some of these things. We're more than willing to go back to the legislature and work on transportation packages, or even weigh in on what TriMet wants to do if it's an open and honest forum. 1510 was not. It was a behind the backroom deal that a couple legislators and very strong lobby from the Portland area cooked up, and it just created a lot of distrust and fighting and tension. And I feel sorry for TriMet, because I think they have a real credibility problem now as they move forward.
Commissioner Bernard?
I was just going to say, you know, our job isn't to stick our nose in other people's businesses. That's your job. You know, in order for 205 to even get on the list, we had a good discussion and said, look, what's important to Clackamas County is 205 and the Sunrise. If we complain about the CRC and everything else, we're just going to get blowback. So we did that, and 205 is on both the federal and state level, top of the list. You know, it would be great if we could, you know, get what we want for the entire state, but our job is to do what we do and what's important for Clackamas County. You know, the special ops, a decision was made on Sunday. I totally support special ops. It may not be the decision I wanted to make, but it was a decision that we put to special ops to make. And it came on a Sunday, and you're right, I've never seen any of this material. The only reason I found out about it was the following Monday. I hadn't heard a thing. So, but that's one of the games that they often play in Salem. But our job is to do what's important to our citizens. And you're right. I mean, the South Corridor, stuff like that, will have an impact on us. But we shouldn't be making you know, a lot of fuss over it. That's really your job and your job to do that, because if we have political equity that we need to make sure we retain for Clackamas County citizens. So I appreciate you bringing this information to us. I hadn't seen any of this.
Well, I think the significance was that the regional funding is available. By history, when the Orange Line was funded, for instance, when they allocated $194 million in future years of JPAC flex funds, that Clackamas County wasn't formidable enough. And this was another chapter. They were going to pursue regional funds for these other transit projects ahead of your needs. And I was simply raising the awareness of that.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and you're right. It's the flex funds that where the monies would have been allocated or committed to meet debt service to pay for some of this. But, you know, I think that it's, you know, really being strategic than it is strength. And, you know, all the partners here, whether you like them or not, the point is that they have, Washington County's been highly successful. We have our success story as a Sunrise Corridor Phase 1, and that this county locally provided a tremendous amount of investment and match, well, overmatch, frankly. We put in so much to get that project launched. And I think we need to make that same commitment. And whether, you know, what I would take out of 1510, or this concept of getting some of that match, and I said this on Tuesday, I said it before, Clackamas County can step up and say, you know what, maybe the counties divide up some of that JPAC flexible fund match and use that for debt service to make that commitment to just put it on the highway of 205 or Sunrise or both. But the concept that they have there, and they're all working together, if we could put together a team, and whether or not you take some of these partners on or off is irrelevant, but the teamwork of a coalition to get some of our highways underway and investment on our highways would be huge for this county. And I think that's where we need some of the strategy. If you want to call that strength, call it strength, but I think it's also just a level of thinking and foresight that we really need here. And that's what I was trying to describe last night at that function, is that, you know, there's a long game here. There's a short game and a long game, but we can't undermine the long game by betraying the trust of the citizens. But it's really important, and if we're being outdone, if these folks are taking such an aggressive, and they are, and I compliment them for again, taking an aggressive, forward-thinking approach and strategy to working as a group to try to get that funding, because if they're the first one at the table for the first bite, and we're not, they're going to get the money. There's limited money out there. We need to be competitive, and I think we need to think about that from a strategic standpoint and come up with our own plan and our own coalition.
Well, again, the speakers have got the commissioners to talking. Sometimes that takes a little while, but it's nice to be able to do so. Thank you, Mr. Schopp.
Well, I might add that it's interesting, and the punchline here is that this so-called regionalism and partnership, they never even told Clackamas County.
The Bernie Bottomley testimony, I was there to listen to it, and it's outlined here. Thank you for providing that. But in there, it doesn't say anything about helping out transportation needs. Nothing. All of that was, and frankly, ginned up later so that they could, you know, dangle enough carrots, mini ones, in front of people that they would jump onto TriMet's proposal. The last thing we need is transportation dollars filtered through TriMet. So, Mr. Krupp, we have a public hearing.
We do. This is a public hearing to consider the first reading of an ordinance that would amend Chapter 6.06 regarding park rules for the Clackamas County Code. Kathleen Rastetter is here to explain the proposal to you.
Good morning, Chair Ludlow and Commissioners. I'm Kathleen Rastetter from Clackamas County Council, and I'm here in place of Rick Gruen, who couldn't be here today. Also have Barb Guthrie and Chris Van Duzer here from the Parks Department. This is a first reading. The Parks Board reviewed and approved these amendments to the code, but it's now before you on a first reading. And as some background, the definitions section was amended just to add the word ground before tent, because we had someone string up a tree tent, and our code didn't clearly say what kind of tent is allowed in our camping areas. So these are our clarification type amendments. Same thing with the second amendment. The changes to the reservation and check-in part of the code was changed. We had a deposit system originally, and there were some collection issues with that. So it's changing to a pay-as-you-reserve online system, and it's also opened up where we didn't used to allow reservations within 3 days of the date someone wanted to camp. Now, if they call, they'll be able to do that. So it's changing the system of reservations a bit to make it a little bit easier for citizens. If you have any questions, otherwise.
Commissioners, any questions or clarifications needed? All right. I will open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak on this matter. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
I move we approve the consent, I move we read the ordinance by title only.
Second.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Further discussion? All right. Mary?
Commissioner Bernard,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
That was hard, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, we're not
Duffy.
done yet.
Huh?
Have to read it by title.
Oh, excuse me. I'll ask the clerk to assign a number and read the ordinance by title only.
Okay. This is going to be ordinance 01-2016, an ordinance amending Chapter 6.06 Park Rules of the Clackamas County Code.
The second reading of this will be on March 24th, 2016, at our regular scheduled business meeting at 10 a.m. Now it's time for the consent agenda. I'll ask the clerk to read the consent agenda by title.
Okay, the consent agenda. Under Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Milwaukee and the Housing and Community Development Division for the ADA Ramps and Safety Crosswalk Improvement Project. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas County Service District Number 1, Clackamas County Development Agency, and the Housing and Community Development Division for the Sewer Hookup Grant Program. Under the Department of Transportation, approval of an agreement of understanding with Oregon Department of Transportation, the City of Newburgh, the City of Wilsonville, Yamhill County, and Ladd Hill Neighborhood Association for the Newburgh-Dundee Bypass Phase 1, Oregon 219 Wilsonville Road Project. And under Business and Community Services, approval of a purchase and sale agreement with Western River Conservancy for the conveyance of real property as part of the Sandy Ridge Trail System. And that concludes our consent agenda.
All right, Commissioners, you want to remove any of those items? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Further discussion? All right, Mary?
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard?
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5-0. Time for the county administrator update.
Well, I've got lots of good news to share with you this morning.
Good.
So the first actually comes from our Housing and Community Development Division with our Health, Housing, and Human Services Department. We just learned that we've been awarded $1.4 million this week in Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development funds for the 2016 Continuum of Care Program Awards. And this program aims to combat and to reduce homelessness in Clackamas County. The $1.4 million will go to some 13 programs and projects, and it exceeds the amount of money we requested in our application by about $63,000. So way to go to our housing and community development folks. Good job. Then the other thing, last week the Clackamas Fire District recognized the first responders who have directly assisted in the survival of cardiac arrest patients that were resuscitated in the field. And 3 of our CCOM employees were honored. Jamie Cooper, Megan Pointer, and Amy Ramos all received the Chain of Survival Life-Saving Award for helping talk a caller through administering CPR that resulted in a life being saved. And so I want to thank Jamie, Megan, and Amy and the rest of the CCOM staff for helping make this happen. And I also wanted to thank our employees for donating their blood. So through our partnership with the American Red Cross, we learned that this past year in 2015, we were among the top donating organizations in Oregon, giving somewhere between 250 and 500 units of blood. So I wanted to thank all those folks who participated in that. And I got one more item. I received this delightful email while I was sitting here, and I've just got to read it to you. This is a customer feedback related to our weatherization program in Community Solutions, and this is just a delight, so you'll bear with me. There are no words to describe how very grateful I am for the Energy Assistance Program. When I applied for this, I was of the mindset that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But I went ahead and applied. You have proven me wrong. From the time of your first evaluation through the final inspections, your staff was very professional, kind, and courteous. I felt as though my big brothers were looking after me. Although Rich Art was so very professional and absolutely, busted their butts when they were here, your inspectors caught things I never would have caught. Rich Art was great about coming out and completing and repairing all the items. Outside of all the work that was done, which I never could have afforded to do, your staff gave me quite an education in energy conservation. I have lived here for 17 years, freezing my behind off. Now I am not. All of my bedrooms are open. I used to close them off and shut them and shut off all the vents. I can't wait to get rid of all those styrofoam blocks I have to deal with every year around the base of the house to the crawl space, which is an eyesore. With my Parkinson's progressing, these are very difficult for me to do. Again, there are no words to express my gratitude, and out of privacy for the individual, I won't state what her name is, but I do want to thank her for sending in this very good words for our Community Solutions folks. So, very good stuff.
Having been a broker for many years and having had a lot of home inspections done, the home inspectors were resolute about one thing. Those blocks that block your vent foundations should not be ever blocked unless it's 20 degrees or lower. Because what happens is it starts to grow mold in there, and that's even worse than having some cold air pass through. So just the word should get out there that don't use those blocks unless it's in the 20s. Your pipes won't freeze at 32 or even down to 30 degrees or less. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the most exciting part of this agenda, and that is hearing from your commissioners. We'll start with Commissioner Bernard.
Well, first, I've never heard that about the blocks.
Really?
I put them in every winter, and the chickens eat them up, and they're all over the yard. I will not do that anymore. Thank you.
Good.
Matter of fact, I have a few to pick up right now in my yard. So I'm going to be pretty short. We do an employee recognition once a month, and I got to tell you, every time I go, I'm amazed how wonderful these people are and how much they love the job they do and the people they work with, not only here but outside of the offices in Clackamas County. 25 years of service to the community, and I'm pretty proud. And, all we do, we couldn't do without them. We couldn't do the work we do and have the time to do what we do without those folks. So I got to say I appreciate that. And the cupcake, fat cupcake, right?
Yeah.
So when I graduated from college, when you graduate from college, you know everything. At least you think you do. I went to the Small Business Administration, took a program called the Greenhouse Program, which we worked with, and there was a 2-year program. There were 2 different names. They changed the name halfway through. And, we learned marketing, bookkeeping, balancing checkbooks, and having a vision for your business in the future. Many of those people, one of the guys was the guy who invented concentrated laundry detergent. I think, you used to have to buy this big jug, and now you buy the little jug and you use a lot less. He invented that and left that class probably within 4 months and sold that patent for millions and millions of dollars. So a lot of great stuff came out of there, and I built a lot of relationships with some of those small businesses. And then I went to I rode my 90-horse Honda off-road dirt bike to Portland at the U.S. Bank Tower to take a small business class. for probably about 4 months in the rain and stuff. It was incredible, but you know, you should never stop learning, and that's what I always did. And of course, I had my dad there, who was watched the books with me and made me balance the checkbook with him every month, and you know, criticized me when I wasn't doing right or thanked me when I was doing good. But you know, having those people help you is really important. This year we're celebrating 91 years in business in May, and that's pretty amazing. And but none of that would have been possible without, you know, that support. College was great, but it never taught me how to run a small business. That's the stuff you learn, and you practice, and you fail, and you succeed until finally you make it. And that's kind of like this job too. You know, the longer you're here, the more you learn, and you fail, and you're successful. You make some people happy, you make some people mad, but it's a great opportunity, you know, to really work. We're all here for our own passions, and we're all passionate about what we do, and I think that's important, and that's what makes a good elected official. So, on to the dog.
Yeah.
This is Luke. He's a classic miniature pinscher you have been looking for. He'd like to live in an active home with a family that will take care of him on walks and even some runs. He likes to keep busy and won't mind working on some training with his new owner. Tasty treats motivate him quite a bit. He's ready to start his new adventure with you today, and it motivates many of us too. For more information about Luke and other dogs at the dog shelter, contact Clackamas County Dog Services at 503-655-8628, or visit us on the web at www.clackamas.us/dogs. Thank you.
I think Stephen Madcore needs to get a dog like that. Huh? Do you? Good.
All right, Commissioner Schrader.
Well, a few things, colleagues. Last week, we had a meeting with our internal audit oversight committee, and that is a new committee that we have instituted here in this county to actually catch problems and issues before they start. And it was a really good meeting. Our new internal auditor is going through various functions and best practices across the board with our agencies here in this county. He's doing an excellent job, and it is helping us work with our management, with our administrator, and our managers and directors here in this county to make sure that best practices are being followed, and that if there's any little red flag with anything, we catch it before it turns into a bigger red flag. So I want to say that I think it's going along really well, and I want to thank our treasurer, who is also involved with this and has been helping out very, very diligently with it. The Madrone wall update, I'm pleased to say that looks like it's going along well as expected, and for me it's been a very long, over a decade issue where when I was first here we were looking at making it a gravel pit, and I'm proud to say I suspect it's going to become a really beautiful park in our area where people can recreate and climb up the wall. So that's been a really good thing. This last Saturday night, I attended the Lake Oswego Annual Awards Dinner and Auction. That was the Lake Oswego Chamber of Commerce. It was a very, very fun evening, and I got to meet and talk to a number of our colleagues at the city of Lake Oswego, and including the mayor and various other city councilors. And then I want to thank my colleagues for taking over for me on Tuesday morning, where I spent the morning with the City Council of Lake Oswego and the Building Construction and Trades Council, where we had an event and a ribbon cutting as the Weiser Block finally had its groundbreaking going on. That's going to be a beautiful development in downtown Lake Oswego. And the thing is that we were all excited about it. These are all union, high-paying jobs, and the building trades are thrilled to be part of this particular project. So with that, I'm going to bring up my arts and culture activities in the county, if we can do that real quickly. Okay, Second Friday film, The Way We Talk. What is stuttering? Where does it come from? Is it passed down through families? Director Mike Turner, who will attend the viewing, wondered about all of this because of his own stuttering. Learn what he discovered about the role of stuttering played in his family and his identity in a conversation which is sure to be fascinating. Friday, March 11th, 6:30 p.m. at the end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center in Oregon City. Secondly, Merrillhurst Choir performs Carmina Burana. Carl Orff's famous cantata will be performed by the combined forces of the Merrillhurst Chorale and Merrillhurst Chorale Union, led by Dr. Justin Smith, Merrillhurst's Director of Choral Activities. Sunday, March 13th, 4 p.m. in St. Anne's Chapel on Merrillhurst campus in Lake Oswego. For more information about any event, you can go to the Arts Alliance website, clackamasartsalliance.org.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
That stuttering business is, I find fascinating. You know, I used to be a bad stutterer for most of my life until I graduated from high school, and then I took years of speech at Mount Hood Community College, and I still can get into the stuttering mode. And one thing I had to learn is I had to really slow my brain down and write down what I'm going to say. And, oh yeah, it was, it causes all kinds of things in your life, stuttering.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I was not a singer, so I couldn't get it over it by singing.
Oh,
Yeah, as some people do. Well, as I said before, we had a very nice breakfast with Congressman Schrader from the CCBA, the Clackamas County Business Association, a nice group mix of, well, all 5 commissioners were there, and I was thankful for that. We were able to I asked a couple of questions about our transportation and I-205 and whether that would be appropriated. And Kurt said, yes, they're working on it. And I think there's a dedication to try to get that done for us. And he did single out Clackamas County and how we approach problems. He also talked about the Willamette Falls locks and the Willamette Falls heritage area in general, about the national designation, because a question came up about that, and Martha's certainly familiar. And he, you know, he did say something that was very good, and we're working on is the economic benefit. He doesn't want to see any things like the covered wagons over on the other side of town that are now have disappeared because the only thing they relied on was tourism and not any economic development. So I appreciate his willingness to discuss things, and we talked about the timber, about the large percentage of timberland, 53% owned by the federal government, and he's aware of that problem, and he thinks people are starting to become more aware of that in Congress now. So any efforts we can do to remind them, I think, is a good. We need to keep those types of things on the boilerplate for our congressional delegation. Last night, MPAC met. They went over some transportation issues that are coming up with the 2018 Regional Transportation Plan. And the first meeting is coming up on that to spend a very few dollars on our transportation needs, and I have a whole bunch of information. The Regional Leadership Forum is Friday, April 22nd, 8 to 12 at the Oregon Convention Center. And it's Metro Council, MPAC, and JPAC members are alternatives. And I know this board has an interest in this, and I'm sure we will be invited, and some of us will be in attendance. We also discussed the expansion of the urban growth boundaries and the report that Metro has put out with a proposed problem statement. And it's good about when it comes to housing. But there was no mention of jobs lands for Clackamas County. And, you know, and I spoke about how Clackamas County is different than Portland, where they have the high-rise apartments. And it occurred to me, because there was such dead silence in the room after I spoke, that maybe they haven't been presented with the differences from Clackamas County in a way that I did it. So I think maybe that might be my role at MPAC as we go forward, to explain why we have opposed the things we have, because we are different. And Bob Stacy was there, and I think he heard me. So what we get to do is we get to add additional information to the problem statement that highlights employment lands. Whether it will be accepted by Metro or not, That remains to be seen, but at least we have tried. Yes. And then finally, I had a great birthday weekend at the coast last weekend, and I was not able to attend the Lake Oswego thing, but I would have, it's on my calendar. But I just want to say, we laughed and we played and we walked on the beach and we went shopping, and it was so nice to get away and give your brain a rest from all of the things going on. I recommend people do that. And just do it, anything. Doesn't have to be the beach, just something different than what you're normally doing. And I was very appreciative that I went with friends, and family says, yes, go, get out of here. Family was happy to see me come home happy. So that's what I did. John.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Well, this weekend, speaking of March and birthdays, most of my family on both sides have a lot of March babies. Right? So this weekend, we're having a celebration down in Eugene for all the March babies coming together
Nice.
with birthdays. So,
Good. March is an important month. Bernard will tell you so.
yeah, clearly understand that. I was talked last week and even talked today with some of the speakers were talking about, putting things to a vote or honoring what we say or whatever that may be. And I can't help but watch the debates, the presidential debates, and whether they're Republican debates or Democratic debates. And the people say, well, you said this then, and now you're saying this now. And I think that it's clearly from coast to coast, there's a lot of the trust issue. That just, it's not that we necessarily deserve to be tagged with distrust, but it's just something that's inherent, as elected officials are. And, my goal, when I first ran was to try to rebuild that as much as possible. And I think consistency as best we can on issues is really important. And I know that we've taken positions over the last several years about whether or not we would put road funding to a vote, and we've made commitments to that. And that's something that people remember, when we're out at some of these forums. They may not be at every forum. Maybe they attended one, but they remember what we said. So, maybe that turns out that we said that, some might view that as a handicap, but I think it's important that we stick with that. And that came up again last night as far as should we put it to a vote? Why don't you just do it? And as I spoke to earlier, the challenge is that if this was a cure-all, and there was enough money to solve our problems, then great, but it's not. And voter approval is absolutely a requirement in the future to actually succeed as far as our road maintenance and our road funding. And this part we're asking for, perhaps in November, when we do put it to a vote for funding, is only 1/3 of that funding. So it's important that we do our best to gain that funding and kind of stick to the message. But I think that process is something that question is going to come back up. I know it will. And I think that if we can hone that message down on our behalf as a talking point, I think we'll be better for it as a commission. The good news about all of this is that, we're taking a different approach. We're having the advisory vote. That came up as well. And I think we've got a lot of actually free media and press and discussion and dialogue about what the problem really is. And I think that's a huge advantage. And be able to get the message out and to educate folks that there is a problem, I think is extremely powerful. And I see it as we're already on the upside of it. I think we're already winning that argument that we actually get that message out at a lower cost and more effectively. And I guess the voter pamphlet statements on the measures come up in about a week or so for the measures. And so maybe we can talk about endorsing one or two of those. I'm looking forward to that discussion as well, and we do that on the side because we can't advocate as a commission, but we can advocate individually as commissioners. So I think I cover all my points here. Yeah, and I think, again, that just, again, taking advantage of this and hopefully getting that message out that will take away any uncertainty as whether or not we're going to put it to a vote. I think that there's uncertainty about that. The mixed audience last night, if people don't know that we're actually going to put it to a vote, even though we don't know what the outcome is going to be in May, I think that gives some people consternation, and some of the walkaways from some of that last night is, should we trust you guys to actually put it to a vote and, number one, honor what you put on the ballot? Will you honor that? And that's a question that I get at every one of these functions, and it's a recurring theme, and I think we all need to be prepared to answer that as honestly as possible. So that's what I have for today.
Well, I don't think the public wants to know everything I did last week, but there were some interesting meetings, as was mentioned. Commissioner, or the Representative Schrader breakfast, had an interesting meeting with the board chair, the director or head of, and the attorney for Clackamas River Water. We have a project with them at the Carver Bridge, and it had a systems failure. We are dealing with in regards to that. We have put out a new RFP, request for proposal, and we want to finish that bridge. For those that drive that area and go, how long will this take? It's going to take a little longer, unfortunately. This morning, went to the West Side Economic Alliance, and where they had basically a forum on marijuana and its business implications in Washington County. Next week, AOC on Monday. Most of the commissioners go to that. The Arts Alliance Extravaganza. Martha, you didn't mention that. I'm so ashamed. And last week, we approved a letter to be sent to Gladstone and encouraging them to put together a committee that is fair in representation so that we can put this final library to bed, so to speak. Again, Clackamas County promised to get out of the library business, and in so doing, we have still one more open library, the Oak Lodge Library. So I'm not sure where that's going to go, but we let Gladstone know we'd really like them to settle this all within 6 months. So it's kind of an interesting back and forth there. I'd like to end with this. Knowledge is learning something every day. Wisdom is letting go of something every day. It's an old Zen proverb. I think it fits all of us a lot. Oh, I'm supposed to do something because Mary's telling me. What? Oh, I didn't flip over my sheet. It's right here. And I didn't end with that Zen proverb. I'm going to tell you about an opportunity to come and talk Zen to us. I'd like to announce the dates for the Commissioner 2016 Town Halls. The first scheduled town hall will be held later this month on Wednesday, March 30th at Riverside Elementary School in Oak Grove, beginning at 6 p.m. The address is 16303 Southeast River Road. We hope you can join us all of you. Our second town hall will be held at Molalla Library on Wednesday, June 15th at 6 p.m. This year we're not putting themes on. It's just y'all come and talk to us about whatever you want to in Clackamas County. I emphasize these things, and I do every time, that people are supposed to ask questions. And sometimes these questions take 2 to 5 minutes, and you're going, write us a letter. We will also have town halls in West Lynn on August 24th and in Boring on October 5th, both at 6 p.m., so mark your calendars for those dates, and we'll be providing some more information as we get closer. You can find out more about our upcoming town halls and watch past ones at our county website, www.clackamas.us. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, there being no further business before the commission this day and a business meeting, this meeting is adjourned.